everyone, it's Daphne from Scrap and Create, and I'm back to continue working on the 8.5 by 8.5 Love Notes mini album. And right now I'm going to focus on getting the inside liner completed and page 1. Okay, so as I had mentioned in the previous video, the inside liner is going to have a waterfall on it. So I'm going to put down my base mat, and then I'm going to pull my waterfall down from that. And I wanted to point out that I put a guideline here, and it's about 1.25 inches down, roughly. And this is where I'm going to place my first waterfall, and it's going to stack down. I also wanted to point out that my waterfall feature is actually going to be using the Graphic 45 regular tags. And what I've done is I've scored a 1/2 inch on the bottom, and these are going to cascade down. And that's what I'm going to use for my waterfall feature on page 1. So I'm going to go ahead and get my base mat down, and then I'm going to go cover each one of these tags, and then I'll install them. All right, let's get the mat down so it's not floating around in the way. And the mat is, let me double check. I think it's 8 3/8 by 8 3/8. 8 3/8 by 8 3/8. So it's going to be a little bit bigger than the mats for the rest of the pages because the cover is larger than the pocket pages. All right. So I usually wait to release my tutorials until I have the entire package complete, but for some reason when I uploaded my interactive pages for the album, I did it in a public state, so you guys have already seen part of the videos. Oops, I almost put my guideline on the bottom. But I don't usually do that, and I went ahead and left it out there. But I'm going to start finishing this up and getting the rest of the detailed tutorials out there for you guys to use. So that was kind of a weird thing. I don't usually do that. It's kind of weird to see all the interactive pieces and then not know how it's going to actually look in the end. So, okay, so that's in. So I'm going to set this aside for a second, and then I'm going to focus on getting each of these mats placed onto the tag. And these mats are cut perfectly, and the reason they're cut perfectly is because Graphic 45 makes a coordinating die that goes with this tag. And actually there's 3 of them, so there's a couple of different sizes, and this is the regular sized one, but there's also a square tag and a very long tag and a very, very small tag. And they make dies for all 3 sizes. And I didn't used to be a fan of their tags because they were so hard to mat, and I didn't like leaving the top black. I just thought it was too much black paper. So now that they've got these dies out, I use them all the time. I think they're really pretty. So if you're going to use the dies and the tags for your waterfall, just be mindful that when you're cutting your paper with the die, that you're orienting it in the right direction. So I wanted the top of the tag to actually fall down, so you have to remember to place your paper on it right. So it's just a quick tip. I always have to really think that through when I'm doing it, especially if I'm doing it contrary to how it's actually designed. Okay, so that's one. For the moment, I'm not lining the back, and part of that is because I'm not finished designing the album, so I don't know what paper I'm going to have left over. So I'm going to hold tight on covering the B side of the flap until I know what paper I've got left over, and then make some decisions based on that. See how nice that looks? So nice to have it matte perfectly and not have to work so hard at it like before. I'm going to add just a tiny more glue, right? That's probably a little more glue than I meant, but I can squeeze it out and wipe it off. There we go. All right. And so I'm not going to do this right now. Once I install them and I finish the rest of the album, I'm going to come back and do some embellishing on the album like I always do. And you'll see those details in the walkthrough, but I don't usually go over how to install them. And the embellishments may include things like filigree, some flowers, and then the other thing is for this particular feature, I'm definitely going to hang some charms off the bottom, or what would have been the top of the tag. And I don't know what they're going to be yet because I haven't gone through my stash and found anything, but I know I'll do something. And I'll use some portion or some method of the ring itself to hold the waterfall in place. And when I go back through the album and add my embellishments, that's when I'm going to decide how I'm going to actually achieve that. Could be a ribbon, could be a magnet, I haven't decided. Okay, this is my last one. All right, okay, so now that's done. So I'm going to go ahead and lay them down. And as you can see, and I pointed out earlier, there's a little guideline to get me started. So I'm going to use the floral for the top. So I'm just looking at both of them to see if there's one I like better. And I kind of like the one with the big flower, more of the big flower exposed. So I'll use this one as my top. And then once you install the first one, it's pretty easy. Everything else just cascades off that. So I've been toying around with whether or not I want to center this or move it off to the side. And I think I'm actually going to keep it off center just a little bit. And then I might wind up putting another design feature here. I haven't decided. And you may be getting the top of my head because I didn't turn it over like I normally do. And I'm going to use my ruler just to make sure that's straight across. It actually looks like it rises just a little. Let me double check one more time. Nope, it's straight. Okay, it's in. There we go. I just press that down. We'll get the next one, which is going to be one with the words, my pick tool. I'm just going to add a little glue to the corner because the tape didn't go all the way, just a tiny bit. And then this one is going to butt right up against the top one, and I'm going to use my straight edge to try to put it in straight. And if you're not feeling really confident with this, put some glue on your tape and that'll give you some time to move around. And again, I'm going to go ahead and use my straight edge to help me line off it. It helps because the that went down before I was ready. Because there's the corners are cut, it makes it a little bit harder to line the edges up. So the straight edge helps me overcome that. Does not look straight to me. Is it? Oh, I know what it is. That kind of stinks. I'm going to pull this up because I'm going to have to fix this. because it looks like I placed the mat and it slid before it dried, and it's off the edge. So I'm not happy with that. It makes it look like it's sideways. So I'm actually going to prepare another tag. So I'm going to set this aside, and I'll come back to this after I've prepared another tag, and I will add another floral tag and another one of these tags. But in the meantime, because I do have all the pieces prepped, I'm going to go ahead and lay down page 1. Okay, and we're going to start from the inside. So this is the piece I've selected for the inside, and because my base page is 8 by 8, the mat is 7 7/8 by 7 7/8. Somebody had asked me to go over those measurements, and I'm happy to say them verbally, but it is quite a lot of work to actually edit and add the banners. So I'm just going to leave it to you to either take the base page measurements and back off your 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch, or you can take my verbal instructions. All right. Okay. Let me get this laid down, and I'm looking at all my edges. And that looks beautiful. Okay, that is in. And this should go fast because I measured and trimmed, inked, and dry fit all the pieces. So, okay, so here's another reason why I'm kind of happy with the fact that I offset this flap. So page 1 flap can open and not actually hit this, and it opens again. So that actually was by accident, but I'm happy with the outcome there. Okay, we're gonna go next do the top. So I'm closing the mechanism completely, or am I gonna do the top next? I gotta come back to that because I just remembered I don't know how I'm holding the pages closed. So what I will do is go ahead and do this liner. Okay, so for this part, it's going to be 2 pieces. There's going to be a small piece on the bottom, and then I've trimmed off another piece that goes on the top. Get the orientation right, there it goes. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put these down. And then probably when I come back to do the embellishments, I'm probably going to put a small strip between the two, either a coordinating or contrasting strip between the two, just because I like the way it looks. And it's not a pocket, it's just 2 pieces on the panel. It just keeps it kind of interesting. Okay, I'm just trying to make that square. There it is, I got a little glue on this. So it's gonna go this way. And I can see I got some glue on here, so I think I'm going to retrim that page. So we'll go to the other side. And it's going to go in. Make sure I'm going up and down. And I am. Paying attention to all my margins. Okay. All right, fits perfect. There we go. And I'm going to do the same thing over here, except I got some glue on here, so I'm going to go find another piece of scrap to go on this piece here, because I think I'm going to put a strip between the two, but I don't think it'll be that wide. So I am going to go get another piece, but that's what it'll look like. Then I am going to place the stripes next to it. And then I've got panels that go here and here, and until I decide how I'm actually going to keep the whole mechanism closed, I am going to, for the time being, leave everything off. So I need a few minutes to think about that, and when I come back I'll have a solution and I will share with you how we're keeping those closed. Hey everyone, it's Daphne, and I'm back to continue working on the inside cover of the mini album, and this is the 8.5 by 8.5 love notes. So I had to take a break and come back and add the rest of my waterfall here. One of my panels had gone in crooked, and so I went and cut another one, and went ahead and did the install while I was away. And I decided that I'm going to hold this together with some magnets, and I've added my magnets. So there's one on the first and one on the third, and that holds it in place. And then there's also a magnet underneath this panel right here that marries up to these magnets. So I had glued this down, but I was able to work my magnet up to the center of the page. So before I lay down my back one, I'm going to make sure to add my magnets. Excuse me. Originally, I was thinking of using a ribbon to tie these, but I think it's going to be too bulky. So sorry, I'm losing my voice. I don't know what's going on. That just happened. Okay, and then I decided while I was away how I'm going to hold down the page one. So I'm going to go over that with you really quickly. I'm going to go ahead and take out my papers because they are not glued down yet. So when we were last together, I added this page and these, and like I said, when I come back with the embellishments, I'm likely going to put a strip here. So I've got my liners ready here, and then how I've decided I'm going to close it is I've added 4 magnets that marry to the back of this card. Actually, to the inside of the card. So this is a card. It's just a piece of ephemera. This is one side. This is the back side of the ephemera. It's going to be placed right here on top of these magnets. And then this whole thing is going to hold these 2 pages in place. And I'm going to do the same thing on the back. I've already actually installed my magnets. So I just wanted to go over with you how I was going to keep this closed. So again, I've got a bifold. A bifold on my ephemera card here. I added 4 magnets. They're going to get covered with the back side of the same piece of ephemera, and then that's going to sit on top of here. Now the way I placed the magnets is I went ahead and added my magnets to the card first because I knew I had some boundaries I had to work within, and then I added magnets to the back side with tape underneath them and then laid it down, and that's where I came up with this placement, just so you know. Okay, so now that we have that all covered, and then I'm not going to line this card just yet. When I'm finished, it's going to look like this, but I'm going to add a piece of ribbon that's going to go underneath this card and attach to the top, and it's going to have a bow at the bottom, and that's what's going to keep this piece of ephemera closed. Now, alternatively, what I could do is add a magnet to the top to hold it in place. But at the moment, I don't think I'm going to have enough paper to line the top. So I'm going to set this aside, knowing that this is what's going to hold it in place. And then as I proceed and get all my pages covered, if I have enough paper left over, I may line that. Okay, sorry about my voice. I don't know what happened. I was perfectly fine until I sat down. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get these in. So I've cut these 2. And I cut them side by side so you can see part of the trumpet is here, and it's going to split apart. Okay, I'm going to turn this sideways, get some glue on it. And I went ahead and inked my edges and did my dry fitting while I was away, so this should go rather quickly. And this will be the end of the inside liner and page 1. And I'm excited to be working on this, and I see you guys are making your purchases, and I'm excited for you. Hopefully not much longer before I have the whole tutorial up and running. And thank you everyone who commented on video 1, which kind of snuck out there on its own. When I was doing the upload process, somehow I had accidentally turned on public. Normally I wait to release my videos until the whole set is available. So I appreciate your patience. I know it's hard to wait once you see the first one, but like I said, it kind of got out there on unbeknownst to me, and actually 100 or so people had actually looked at the video before I realized what happened. It didn't occur to me to check because normally my default is to be non-public until I have the whole series. All right. Okay, so let's get this down. I'm going to put a piece of contrast here so I can see the edge more clearly. And while I'm doing all of this, I'm trying to keep my head out of the picture, which isn't always easy. Okay, there we go. So there's what the cover is going to look like. And when it's closed, it'll look like this. Okay? So the next one is the inside flap, which I have to kind of go back and remember. Did I do this and this? So that's one option. The other option would be to do that and then put the stripes on the outside, which I think I like better. So that's what I'm gonna do. So I can do this and this. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and put my stripes in next. Turning my book again. And I'm just gonna add my contrast and do a quick fit. I trim them to fit exactly, and I'm just making sure that I've got the right one on the right panel. Or the correct one. I guess I don't really mean right, left, but correct. Looking for a nice even margin along 3 sides. Get that extra glue off. Okay, that is in. Okay. So the next one, yeah, we'll go like this. So I'll turn that around. That looks good. Okay. There we go. So when you open page 1, there's what you get. Okay, 1, 2, and then we have 2 more to place, and I have a decision to make. Do I want to do this or put the tan up? And you know what? I think I am going to put the tan side up for a change. It's nice and simple. And I'll probably add some sort of an embellishment to the tan panel since it's so simple. Okay, I'm going to turn the whole thing sideways and put a contrast sheet under it so I can see my edges clearly. And this one's a little difficult to put in because the page is bowing, because on the other side of this is the waterfall. So I'm holding part of it up to make sure it's flat. Okay, that's in. I like it. Okay. A little extra glue. Take that off with my fingernail. And I'm going to go back and push down my corners. there we go. That should close nicely, and it does. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Double check, make sure I've got the orientation correct. It does look right. All right. So one of the things we're thinking about doing, and I'm looking for some feedback on, is I do make these albums, and I've made so many, and I've gifted so many. Just about everybody I want to give an album has one. So one of the things we're thinking about doing is selling our finished albums in the shop. So I want to get some feedback on that. If I put them out there in our Wix shop, would anybody be interested in them? So give me a shout out. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And I'll probably put a public comment out asking the same question. So, okay, there we go. So there is page 1. It is finished with the exception of the card, which is going to hold everything in place. And I'm holding off on finishing this until I decide how I'm going to keep it closed. And because I don't know if I have enough paper here, I'm just going to hang tight. If I don't have enough paper, I'm going to apply a ribbon here and a ribbon to the top and put a bow at the bottom to keep it closed. So there you have it. So there's the waterfall. Again, I placed a magnet here under the panel, one on the second waterfall and one on the top waterfall. I tried to get away with just 2 magnets and it didn't work. The tags are very heavy because of the brad inside it. Not brad, but because of this ring. So you're really going to need a total of 3 magnets to hold this in place. And or alternatively, you could place a ribbon underneath this panel and tie it through that top. But I decided to go this direction. What I am going to do at some point though is add some charms to hang off the top of the tags. Or in this case, the bottom of the tags, because I've turned them over. That is the end of page 1. Thanks for watching. Okay, let's get started on page 2, and then once we're done with that, I'm ready to go ahead and install page 3. So as you recall, we have a top and bottom flap, and I'm going to start with this nice big mat. It's going to go here. I'm going to add some glue to that. I'm going to slide this over a little bit. And hopefully everything, I believe I've dry fit everything, so it should go pretty quick. I'm doing something a little bit different in this video. I'm actually designing and doing my videos 1 page at a time, and then I'm going to stitch them together lately. So if you see some spots that are not quite so smooth, that's why. I'm hoping this might help me with the construction, because sometimes I design the pages so far in advance of building it, I have a hard time remembering where to put everything. So we'll see. Let me straighten that out. I'm going to turn this sideways so I can see all my edges before it dries. And it's not quite straight, so I'm going to try that again. That's looking a lot better. Much better. Okay. All right, I might have to add a little more glue to the tip there. Yeah, it didn't quite. It's very warm and dry here in San Diego today, and I hear that's not going to last. I think we have rain coming tomorrow, so I'll enjoy it while I can. All right. All right, just a couple of reminders. This is an 8.5 by 8.5. I don't go over the construction of the actual base album. I do have a sort of a common tutorial out there for the 8 by 8 and 8.5 by 10 that I refer you to. The tutorial is actually for 8.25 by 8.5. And then I've decided over time that I would just make my albums 8.5 by 8.5. So the only thing that affects is the cover, not the pages, because the pages have always been 8 by 8. All right, well that is that's the inside. So the next thing is I'm gonna lay this down here, and it's gonna close like that. So here's my top piece, double checking that I have it inked, and I do. I'm going to use my contrast sheet, which helps me find my edges much faster. Okay, it's worth doing. Keeping a piece of white or contrast color paper close by will save you some time when you're actually laying the page down. Okay, I started this effort with a complete bundle. And for those of you that don't know, a complete bundle is the 12 by 12 collection pack, and 8 by 8, and then the 12 by 12 patterns and solids. Trying to shift that up a little bit. And tags and pockets, chipboard, and ephemera. So that's what comes in our the bundle that we put together here at Scrap and Create. And then in addition, double check to that, we also throw in some extras, and those extras are things like ribbon, some filigree, and some coordinating charms. Which, when I get to it, when I get to the embellishment phase, I will add some of those components so you can see how I used them. And for this particular one, because it is roses, I am actually going to incorporate two things that don't come in the bundle. So if you want to replicate this album, I'm going to add the graphic 45 roses. I'm going to flip this over because I want this edge to be very precise. And then because I flipped it over, I have to make sure, yeah, that my words are still going in the right direction. They are. I'm going to add the roses, and I'm going to use the red ones. And then the other thing I'm going to add is, well, the other thing I did add already was the tags. So the tags and roses are not part of the bundle. So if you want to recreate this album, you'll need to add those to your cart as well. All right. That's looking pretty good. And while I have this in front of me, I'll go ahead and do the flip side. There we go. Which is gonna just be a nice cream, which is the back side of this. But I didn't really want black on black, that's too much. So I flipped it over. And there's been a couple of questions about the art glitter glue, and there's a note now out on our shop, and we expect to be shipping this hopefully in April. We do not ship during the winter months because it affects the integrity of the glue. So for those of you that are interested, that's kind of our time frame. Hopefully it'll be in April, will be here before you know it. Okay. We've also just added some additional sizes for score tape. So if you're looking for your score tape, we've got 1/4 inch, 3/8, and 1/2 inch in our shop now. Okay, now I'm upside down again, so no, it's not directional. I was going to say I need to make sure I got the right direction, but this is just a pattern. So that makes it easy. And as you can see, this is one of the 8 by 8 sheets. So I've used 8 by 8 and 12 by 12 sheets inside the album. I kind of go back and forth depending on the size of the panel I'm covering. The smaller the panel, usually I want to go to the 8 by 8 because they scale down the print. So it's not quite as big. All right, that is in. Okay, I'm going to get this right side up. And we're going to take a look. Okay, so there's page 2. That's pretty straightforward. So when I come back through during the embellishment phase, I'll probably add some tuck spots with parts of the cut-aparts or even chipboard and ephemera, just so you know. Okay, so now we're on to page 3. Okay, page 3, I'm doing a couple of little pieces. And I'm going to do that first so I don't have to keep track of this. So I laid down this piece of ephemera, And when I did, I hadn't decided what size I wanted the mat. And then I decided I probably wanted to keep it longer than I thought. So I'm gonna add this tiny little strip here. And it looks like I forgot to ink the edges, so I'm gonna do that right now. I'm gonna add that tiny little strip there and another strip on top. Normally, if I'm gonna add strips, I leave a larger space because this strip is very hard to manage. And it's gonna be hard to get it down without a lot of excess glue because it's so thin. So, lesson learned for you. If you're gonna do something similar, if I were you, I would center the ephemera card and then put a strip on either side. Equal size strip on either side. This will look pretty, but it's hard, like I said, to manage because it's so thin. I'm gonna have to deal with glue squishing out once I lay it down. Okay. All right, I know it's hard to see, so I'll put this here. And you can see the edge here that I'm working with. And like I said, glue everywhere because it's so thin. You just have to be prepared for that. Shift that a little bit. Okay, there we go. All right, and then I forgot to ink this too. I'll do that. This one is gonna go on top. And I've said this before, but I don't like to distress too much because the paper doesn't really lend itself to that. It's already kind of distressed. So I really just want to knock the cream edge off the paper so that when you're looking at it at a slight angle, you don't see cream or white exposed on the paper. I'm going to turn it upside down. I need to turn my hearts over. And there we have it. That needs to go down and over a little more. There we go. All right, so there it is. There's my ephemera card. And like I said, if it was me and I was doing it over, I would probably make this more even because the strip was just a little hard to manage. All right, that is done. Next, these are my flaps here. And I think this is the piece this piece is gonna go here. And I can't remember, it's this side, okay. And I did ink it. So I'm gonna go ahead and flip my book over again and install this piece. And then I'll work on my two flaps, my left and right flap. And again, there's no magnets on this one. I mean, you can add them if you want. I've designed it so that there's going to be a piece of a card that slips into the pocket and holds everything in place. And I will come back and add that component, the card component, when I come back and do the rest of the embellishment. So I'm not doing it right now. Okay, and I'm just checking to make sure it's out of the score line. So I push that too far because I want the hinge to operate. And it does. Okay. That is in. Okay, flip it around. All right. So our next pieces will be these two flaps. And we're going to have stripes on the outside, like so. Does that look right? It does. That's kind of, let's double check. Looks good. Get my glue down. Make sure it's operating without getting stuck in the score line, and it is. Double checking my fit. Actually more like triple checking my fit. And it's good. I'm just taking off a little bit of excess glue squeezed out. Okay, so that's that. So there is the look we have. And then I've got this piece that fits here. And it is ready to go. And this is going to butt right up against the pocket on the bottom half of this page. Obviously not to go over it, but to just butt up right against it. There we have it. Okay. And then, because I like to pull in a little bit of the design from the preceding page, here is the same pattern. From the page 2, this is the pocket. Okay, there we go. And then the insides. I'm going back to my hearts. Okay, let's double check that this fits. Actually, it goes this way. Okay. All right. Yep. And everything will close, just double checking. So typically I measure my flap, and then I back off 1/8 of an inch for each side, and that leaves me actually with a 1/16 inch border, and because I only take 1/8 off 2 of the 4 sides, and then what I do is I dry fit it. And then a lot of times I'll still need to just take a tiny sliver off, and that's because, like I said, when you score your paper, you know, it does take up some of the width. So sometimes you'll need to go back and do that tiny little trim to make sure you stay out of the score line. But just measuring the flap and coming off 1/8 of an inch on 2 of the 4 sides, that gets you 90% there. Okay, and this is the last piece for this page. And I'm going to, oop, that's in crooked. Come back and work on another page at a different time. So this is all I'm going to do for this short clip, and I'll come back and I'll do 2 pages in the next video. So I think that's kind of what I'm going to do, at least. And like I said, I don't think I have anything here with me, but there'll be something that holds this whole flap down, and this is held down by magnets. So when I come back, I'll be doing page 4 and 5.